Part 8, Financial Planners. So I guess I'll preface this again because I'll get a bad text from everybody who's a financial planner or anybody I know. But you don't need a financial planner. Most people don't. Um, you know, you can do the research yourself. Probably do as well, especially if they're stock market based or something like that. It's not something. If you're really ignorant about financial stuff, then a planner will help you. That being said, a planner, especially a professional planner who earns a living doing it, is trying to sell you something from their packages, and they'll receive something in return that you will pay for. And so it's no different than salespeople. And I'm not saying financial planners don't go in with the best intent, or don't at least believe they're going in with the best intent, and they're going to say, I have this skill set, I know more about financial markets and how to invest for retirement, and that's the way it is. And it's not that they're being evil, they truly believe that, and in many cases they can do better than your average schmuck, but not better than your average schmuck that done a lot of research. And can get the equivalent. So I'm picking on financial planners, but I'm just saying, they think about people all around in that way. If you go into the Nissan lot and the salesman comes out and he says, what are you looking for today? And you reply, I'm looking for a car with good gas mileage. I am willing to bet that he is going to name the Cube or the Nissan whatever, Leaf. He's not going to tell you the Chevy Cruze, the Toyota Prius, because he's selling what's in his store. If he says, hey, you should look at the Toyota Prius, you say thank you, and you'll go off to the Toyota dealer. Have to always take with a grain of sand. And I know that's an obvious one because you have no relationship to that salesperson. But pretend that salesperson was your father's friend. He's still going to be interested in selling you something that's his. And financial planners are going to be interested in selling something that their people that they're working for are in their store, are in their portfolio. And anytime you run into this scenario in life, it's something that you always should be aware of. Once you're aware of it, you can live with it. You can take their advice or not take their advice, but I always tell you, do some research on anything. Code permitting, anything. Doesn't really matter. Stock market based financial stuff. I'm going to say the stock markets aren't even exportable. What does that mean? That means that, you go on a CNBC, they got loudmouth whoever. They got 8 financial channels out here. They got all kinds of experts. And you'll find out that sometimes a monkey with a dartboard picks better than they do. Just the way it is, it's kind of a gamble, and they don't really know unless they get inside information, and they ain't supposed to have inside information. So, for the price that you're paying these people, of course, if they're doing it for free, so be it. At least you're getting some free, but free advice is always free advice. It is what it's worth. And you can take that, you can take it to the nth degree there, and I don't want you necessarily to do that, because sometimes if you go to a construction expert and they're the expert and they want to sell you, so-and-so joist, so be it. You still need to get your house done with an expert, a construction expert. And I don't necessarily say go be an expert in construction and load bearing. You pay people for services, and I know a financial planner is a service. But think about professions like that, and especially financial ones, with your money. I put except lawyers down there. What does that mean? I said, well, lawyers get a terrible, I'm not a lawyer. I know some lawyers, and they always get this is a little bit different. I would pay for a good lawyer. Of course, I guess I'd pay for a good financial planner, but I just don't believe on the outcome. Whereas a good lawyer will help you avoid tons of costs. Rich people know this, right? And poor people can't afford lawyers. And sometimes you say the lawyer's not worth $600 an hour. You just don't want to waste their time on $600 an hour stuff. But a good lawyer, just like a good negotiator, there are other professions that are very similar that, a good person in that profession. It's really hard to determine a good financial planner from a not good financial planner because the future is uncertain. Whereas a good lawyer will pretty much advise you, their advice is worth the money. So there you go. There's a prop for lawyers. They get busted down everywhere. I don't have any lawyer jokes to do here, but But just keep in mind what people get out of it by helping you. And if they're getting something out of it, whether even if it's a realtor, they want to put you in the best house possible. They're just trying to match your houses. They're doing whatever. But at the end of the day, especially they want you to close quickly for their time. They don't want to spend 8 months with you and have you, get their 10% on their $200,000 house when they could have spent 8 minutes with you. Now they'll spend more than 8 minutes because they're, not terribly conniving. Now I'm throwing the realtors under the bus, but just realize what people are, what they're there for, and if they'd like to close you quickly. I mean, salespeople at the car lot would like to close you quickly. If you go in there and you say, hey, I'll pay you this, and they say, hey, that's above my number, you guess you learned something there. But if you're willing to pay it and you're willing to walk out, they'll do the transaction as quickly as possible. Believe me. Been there, done it. So learn that about life. Your time is worth money, their time is worth money, and, especially when results aren't guaranteed.